Alexander Voss, the billionaire tech mogul whose empire spanned continents, pulled his sleek black Mercedes into the driveway of his sprawling mansion under the cover of a stormy night. He hadn't told anyone he was coming home early from his business trip in Tokyo, not his staff, not his assistants, and certainly not the nanny who cared for his 3-year-old triplets. As lightning cracked across the sky, he slipped through the front door quietly, his heart pounding with an inexplicable mix of excitement and dread. What he was about to witness would shatter his world forever. But just as he turned the corner toward the nursery, a soft glow from the room stopped him dead in his tracks. There, in the dim light, was Elena, the maid he'd hired 2 years ago, cradling all 3 of his children in her arms. They weren't just playing. They were clinging to her like she was their lifeline. And then, one of them whispered something that made Alexander's blood run cold. Alexander froze in the shadows of the hallway, his hand gripping the doorframe so tightly his knuckles turned white. Little Mia, the smallest of the triplets with her curly brown hair just like her late mother's, looked up at Elena and said, "Mommy, tell us the story again about how we were born." Elena's face paled for a split second, but she smiled warmly, brushing a strand of hair from Mia's forehead. "Of course, my darlings," she replied, her voice trembling ever so slightly. Alexander's mind reeled. His wife, Sophia, had died giving birth to these children 3 years ago. Elena was just the maid, the nanny he'd promoted after Sophia's passing. How could they call her Mommy? His heart hammered as he leaned closer, straining to hear more. What secret was Elena hiding? And why did the triplets look at her with such unconditional love, a love he'd never quite managed to earn himself? But before he could burst into the room, Elena began the story, her words weaving a tale that sounded eerily familiar yet twisted in ways Alexander couldn't comprehend. "Once upon a time," she said softly, "there was a kind woman who couldn't have babies of her own. She and her husband tried everything, but nothing worked. Then, a miracle happened." Alexander's breath caught. That was Sophia's story, their story. The infertility struggles, the endless doctor visits, the heartbreak. But Elena was telling it as if she had lived it. The triplets listened raptly, their tiny hands clutching her dress. Thunder rumbled outside, mirroring the storm brewing in Alexander's chest. He had to confront her, demand answers. Yet, as he took a step forward, Elena's next words hit him like a freight train, "And that's when I decided to help them, even if it meant giving up everything." Alexander's world tilted. What did she mean by that? Flashback to 4 years earlier, Alexander and Sophia Voss were the picture of success on the outside, glamorous parties, private jets, a love story that magazines envied. But behind closed doors, their marriage was crumbling under the weight of infertility. Sophia, with her elegant poise and sharp wit, had always dreamed of a big family. Alexander, driven by his ambition to build Voss Tech into a global powerhouse, threw money at the problem, top specialists, experimental treatments, nothing was off limits. Yet, month after month, the tests came back negative. "We need a surrogate," Sophia finally said one tearful night, her voice breaking. Alexander agreed, but the search for the right person felt invasive, impersonal. That's when Elena entered their lives. Elena Ramirez was 25 then, a quiet immigrant from a small town in Mexico, working odd jobs to support her ailing mother back home. She applied for the housekeeping position at the Voss mansion through an agency, her resume modest but her references glowing. When Alexander interviewed her, he was struck by her gentle demeanor, her warm brown eyes that seemed to hold a depth of kindness. Sophia took to her immediately. "She's perfect," Sophia whispered after the interview. "Reliable, compassionate. Maybe, she could help us in other ways." Alexander raised an eyebrow, but Sophia's plan unfolded quickly. They approached Elena about being their surrogate. It was unconventional, risky even, but Elena, moved by Sophia's desperation and her own desire to make a difference, agreed. "I'll do it for you," she said, her voice steady. For the family you deserve. The process was grueling. Injections, appointments, the emotional toll. Elena moved into the guest wing of the mansion to make things easier. As the pregnancy progressed, with not one, but 3 babies, bonds formed. Sophia and Elena spent hours talking, sharing stories of their childhoods. Sophia confided her fears of not being enough as a mother. Elena shared her own losses, like the father who abandoned her family when she was young. Alexander, buried in work, noticed the growing closeness but dismissed it as necessary. He was grateful, of course, but distant. When the triplets arrived prematurely, chaos ensued. Sophia went into labor early, complications arose, and in the blur of hospital lights and beeping machines, she hemorrhaged. Doctors couldn't save her. Alexander was left a widower, holding 3 tiny infants in the NICU, his world shattered. Elena, recovering from the C-section, insisted on staying. "Let me help," she begged through her pain. "They need a mother's touch." Alexander, overwhelmed and grieving, agreed to keep her on as the nanny. But he threw himself deeper into work, traveling constantly, leaving Elena to raise Mia, Liam, and Lucas almost single-handedly. She bottle-fed them Sophia's frozen breast milk at first, then formula. She sang lullabies in Spanish, taught them their first words, wiped their tears. Over time, the lines blurred. The children, too young to remember Sophia, began seeing Elena as their mother. And Elena? She fell in love with them as if they were her own, because biologically, they were. But she buried that truth, fearing Alexander would see her as overstepping. Back in the present, Alexander stepped back from the nursery door, his mind racing. How had he missed this? The way the triplets gravitated to Elena, the subtle resemblances, Liam's dimples matched Elena's, not Sophia's. Was it possible? He needed proof. Quietly, he slipped into his home office, pulling out old files from the surrogacy agreement. There it was, Elena's signature, the medical records. But something nagged at him, a paternity test he'd never bothered with, assuming everything was straightforward. His hands shook as he dialed his lawyer. "I need you to dig into the surrogacy details," he whispered. "Everything." As he hung up, a crash from the nursery made him jump. Rushing back, he arrived just in time to see Elena on the floor, the triplets around her, one of them holding a broken vase. But it wasn't the mess that shocked him, it was the blood on Elena's hand, and the way Mia cried, "Mommy's hurt." Alexander burst in. "What the hell is going on here?" Elena looked up, her eyes wide with terror. "Mr. Voss. You're home early." She scooped up the children, trying to shield them. Alexander's voice was low, dangerous. "They call you Mommy." "Why?" The triplets whimpered, sensing the tension. Elena's face crumpled. I can explain. But not in front of them." She put the kids to bed quickly, her movements efficient despite the cut on her hand. Downstairs in the living room, with rain pounding against the windows, she faced him. "Sophia and we became close during the pregnancy. She confided in me about your marriage, how lonely she felt with you always working. One night, after a fight you two had, she cried on my shoulder. And then..." Elena trailed off, tears streaming. Alexander's stomach dropped. "What are you saying?" "It was a mistake," Elena continued, her voice breaking. "Sophia and we shared a moment. It was emotional, confusing. But the insemination had already happened, or so we thought. The timing, the doctors said the embryos took, but later tests showed inconsistencies. Sophia didn't want to know the details, she just wanted the babies. But I believe the triplets might not be from the IVF. They might be." Alexander staggered back. "Mine? From, what? You and Sophia?" No, that didn't make sense. Elena shook her head. No. From me, and you. Alexander's world spun. Flashback, a company gala, 2 months before the surrogacy started. He'd drunk too much, argued with Sophia, and in a haze, ended up in a guest room with Elena? The memory flooded back, repressed in his grief. A one-night indiscretion, buried under guilt. I didn't know, Elena sobbed. When Sophia asked me to be the surrogate, I thought it was fate. But after the birth, when Sophia died, I couldn't leave them. They're mine too, Alexander. Biologically. Proof? The lawyer called back that night, DNA records from the hospital confirmed it. The IVF had failed, Elena's natural pregnancy from that night had coincided perfectly. Sophia had known, or suspected, but chose to embrace it as her miracle. Alexander felt betrayal, anger, but also a profound sadness. He'd neglected his family, his children. And Elena had filled the void, sacrificing her own life for them. The first major challenge hit, Alexander demanded Elena leave. You've lied to me, he roared. Take your things and go. The triplets wailed as she packed, clinging to her legs. Don't go, Mommy. Mia screamed. Alexander's heart broke watching them. That night, alone with the crying children, he realized his error. He wasn't equipped to raise them without her. But pride held him back. Days turned to weeks, the house felt empty. The triplets asked for Elena constantly, their little faces drawn with confusion. Alexander tried, playdates, nannies, but nothing worked. His business suffered, deals fell through as his focus waned. Then, the second cliffhanger, a frantic call from Elena's number. Mr. Voss, it's about the children. Her voice was urgent. I found something in Sophia's old journals. You need to see this, it's about us, about everything. Alexander raced to her small apartment on the city's outskirts. There, amid boxes of her belongings, Elena handed him a leather-bound book. Sophia's handwriting filled the pages, confessions of her own loneliness, her forgiveness for Alexander's affair, she'd known, and her plea for him to love Elena as family. She's the mother they need, Sophia wrote. Don't let pride destroy what we built. But as Alexander read, a photo slipped out. A ultrasound image, dated before the surrogacy. What's this? He asked. Elena whispered, Sophia was pregnant too. But she miscarried early. That's why she pushed for the surrogacy so fast. She wanted to hide her pain. The revelation deepened the emotional layers. Sophia had carried her own child briefly, lost it, and seen Elena's pregnancy as a second chance. Alexander felt waves of guilt, for his absence, his infidelity, his quick judgment of Elena. I pushed you both away, he admitted, tears falling. Elena touched his hand. We all made mistakes. But the children, they need us both. Reconciliation began slowly. Alexander invited Elena back, not as maid, but as co-parent. Challenges arose, public scrutiny when rumors leaked, legal battles over custody, resolved amicably, and Alexander's struggle to balance work and family. He stepped back from Voss Tech, delegating to trusted executives. Family therapy helped heal wounds. The triplets thrived, learning about their two mommies, Sophia in heaven, Elena here. Elena opened up about her past, abandoned by her father, supporting her mother through cancer, now in remission, thanks to Alexander's help. Relatable moments abounded, late-night feedings turned to story times, park outings where Alexander pushed swings, laughing as mud splattered his designer suits. Emotional depth peaked in quiet scenes. Alexander and Elena sharing a tentative kiss one evening, realizing love had grown from ashes. Another challenge, a business rival, jealous of Alexander's success, dug up the scandal and threatened to expose it. Your perfect family is a lie, the rivals sneered in a boardroom confrontation. Alexander faced a choice: fight dirty or rise above. With Elena's support, he chose transparency. In a press conference, he shared the story, anonymized for the children's sake. Turning vulnerability into strength. Family isn't just blood, he said. It's love, forgiveness, second chances. The public response was overwhelming, support poured in, his company stock soared. Years passed in the story's arc. The triplets grew, Mia into a budding artist, Liam a curious inventor like his dad, Lucas a kind soul advocating for immigrants like Elena. Alexander and Elena married in a simple ceremony, her mother walking her down the aisle. The inspiring message crystallized. In the face of loss and betrayal, true family emerges from empathy and effort. Alexander reflected, I arrived home that night expecting routine, but found a truth that rebuilt me. Life's shocks aren't endings, they're invitations to love deeper. As the storm cleared that fateful night, so did the clouds in their lives. The triplets, now understanding their story, hugged both parents tightly. We love you, Daddy and Mommy, they chorused. Alexander smiled, finally at peace. If this story touched your heart, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more emotional tales that remind us of life's beautiful twists. Your support means the world.